All right, guys, what's going on? It's Jack, and welcome back to another video. And this is footage from my live stream that I may or may not cut after recording this. And I'm kind of recording it together with the footage, just to cut an extra step out or whatnot. But regardless, it'll be easy to put together if I decide to do some cleaning up on the editing thing. But it is once again a really good time to be a gamer, and that's one I wanted to go into, as well as upcoming games for the Xbox Showcase and talking about a few other things as well. Pretty much just mainly talking about like reasons to be excited for upcoming games, because we still have plenty of time to go in the year 2023, and I think with the upcoming Xbox Showcase announcement, I think we can accept. I think we can have a lot to be excited for. However, I just want to state right off the bat that I am not a what's it called? I'm not a Sony fanboy. I'm not an Xbox fanboy. I am not a Nintendo fanboy. I'm just a gaming fanboy. But if I had to choose one out of every single company, I would probably say I'm a Nintendo fanboy more than anything else because of how I grew up playing Nintendo. And the gameplay in the background is, again, it's again a whole bunch of mixed things. I just started playing some Halo again since I hadn't touched it in a long time, and I start out pretty strong, and then there's some mediocreness, and then there's some strengths and weaknesses thrown in. I mean, that's what you get when you play ranked. And start out playing ranked free for all, and then I went to non no, I went to excuse me, ranked, just regular ranked arena. So it is what it is. So if you feel like watching the stream in its entirety, if I don't think I'll be commentating for like 2.5 hours, but if you want to see the stream in its entirety in terms of what I say, like what you see on the right hand corner, upper right hand corner, then you can go see that in the live tab. But for the most part, I want to say thank you for everybody who's been really supportive of the streams, the videos, and all that kind of stuff. It's been great. But let's get into it, because there's a lot to discuss in this commentary, and on top of that, there's also just a lot to be excited for, and a lot that I have to say, because I've had experiences with certain games, and my goodness, why is it every single time I get to start commentating there's cops? there's always cops in the background. It's like, oh my goodness. But anyway, let's get into it, shall we? So now I'm gonna start actually with Halo Infinite, because for the longest time ever, it's been kind of leaked and rumored that there's a quote-unquote battle Tatanka mode coming out, which is a battle royale. Now, you guys know that personally I'm not a battle royale fan, but that doesn't mean that I can't get excited for it, despite the fact that I'm not playing it. And there's a multitude of reasons for this. Now, first of all, the biggest reason is because I actually care about every single genre in gaming, because I'm a gaming fanboy. I love games. Even if I don't play a certain game because it's not my type of game to play, I have gotten to the point now to where I realize, and this is just one way to be excited about it, right? I've gotten to the point now to where I can realize, like, I could have that game playing in the background, and I can do an entire commentary talking about that game, or talking about maybe even something else. But I can still talk about that game. I've got a few ideas of a few videos that I want to make, but ultimately, I've gotten to the point now to where I've gotten so much respect for so many different genres of games, whether I like them or not. Because looking back at my entire life playing games for like 31 years now or whatnot, or going on 31 years, I have to say that I've certainly gotten my fair share of taste of different games. And I'm excited for the battle royale coming up for Halo, because it is going to happen. There's just no way that it's not. Halo is just too good for it not to have a battle royale. Like, in terms of Halo being a really good fit for battle royale, because when you think about all the weapons, when you think about all the vehicles, the way the maps are designed in like big team battle or whatnot, and the way the shields work, or maybe they can do it without shields, I don't know. I mean, there is just so much there for a great battle royale game that it would be a damn shame for it not to happen. As a matter of fact, it's already been kind of leaked. One of the sound files has been leaked, and then plus the code name's been leaked, so it's only a matter of time. So it might get an announcement. I don't know if we're going to see gameplay, although Microsoft would be very, very wise to take as much advantage of having gameplay on there as possible. And the reason for this is because Sony's recent press conference, unfortunately, was lacking in gameplay. We got a lot of cinematic trailers and pre-rendered trailers or whatnot, right? But I mean, it's great and all, but again, that's one of the differences between gaming and movies. people want to see gameplay. It's different when you have a movie trailer for a movie because, well, it's a piece of what you're going to see. It's part of the movie. So the same thing needs to go with trailers. I mean, you've got to have some gameplay in there so that way fans and players know and understand what they're going to get into. And I think that that's one of the most important things when you promote your product. You've got to have gameplay thrown into the mix. So let's get into what I think is going to happen with the Battle Royale. I think it's going to release sometime either in very late 2023, if we're lucky, if not 2024. But at this point, I think it's going to be really huge because obviously some of the biggest streamers out there are into Battle Royale. Like when you look at Dr. Disrespect, whether you like these people or not, whether you trust them or not, when you look at guys like Dr. Disrespect, Tim the Tap Man, I know Shroud doesn't just play Battle Royale. I know he plays a whole bunch of games and stuff like that, but he will play whatever. So and again, so many big streamers out there like Ninja or whatnot. Ninja is going to be all over Halo Infinite, especially since he was a former pro Halo player, and then you give him a Battle Royale. It's almost like it's made for Ninja, right? So fans of those guys are going to certainly indulge in that as well, which is obviously a good thing, right? And then there's also the fact that again, when you talk about the lore, when you talk about the weapons, when you talk about the vehicles and stuff like that, it's going to make a hell of a Battle Royale. And I'm actually really I would be really entertained, just like, even if I don't play it, because I don't, it's not my thing. I prefer regular multiplayer. I like fast-paced action. I like getting into the action quickly. I don't like to run around and look for stuff. And then I don't like the 70% moving around thing and then 30% action thing. I prefer it to be, if anything, the other way around, if not even more. So basically, for me, I would say that the biggest thing for me is that I want to see a whole bunch of streamers and channels and everything like that thrive off of the Battle Royale, because for the longest time we've had Apex Legends, we've had Fortnite, we've had PUBG, H1Z1, and there hasn't really been anything, and of course Warzone. There hasn't really been anything quote unquote new for a while now. So and these games obviously get updated and stuff, and then there's more games out there that are coming with Battle Royales no matter what. But the thing is, ultimately, we haven't had anything new and fresh. And the thing is, with Halo, I think Halo has the opportunity to be like the one that's like different, but the one that everybody loves or whatnot. And it could actually be the thing that Halo needs to help it bring it back into popularity, especially if the Battle Royale Tatanka mode or whatever it's going to be called is going to be running on Unreal Engine 5. And then the next Halo game could run in Unreal Engine 5. Who knows? They might even update Halo Infinite for Unreal Engine 5. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe I doubt it. I kind of doubt it, but I don't know. In the gaming world, man, everything's possible. Now, with that being said, that's the Halo side of things, right? So, again, exciting for that, even for the Battle Royale players. And again, multitude of reasons, even for people like myself who doesn't necessarily enjoy playing Battle Royale, to be excited for it, because the community is going to get a win out of it. So therefore, if the community wins, we win, right? Everything in gaming wins when the community wins. So let's get into a few other things that I want to talk about in terms of the showcase. Fable has been rumored. I'm sorry, not rumored, excuse me. It has been revealed for a while now. It was announced for a while now. And then ever since then, we've seen pretty much crickets. It kind of disappeared, right? It had this announcement trailer that basically showed us almost nothing. Basically, that a new Fable is coming. Some people are talking about even maybe a Fable collection. But whether or not that's true is a really big deal. So for me personally, I would say that Fable is going to be absolutely huge. It's either going to start, I'm predicting that it's either going to start the showcase or end the showcase. I don't know. There might even be like some sort of halftime. Like once you get into the middle of it, it might appear there. You just never know. But ultimately, Fable is a really big name in the RPG community. And I think it is in a place, it's been in a place for a long time to where ever since its announcement years ago now, it's in a really good place to do something and really add flavor into the RPG genre in a way that fans can appreciate. I mean, when you look at what Elden Ring did, and in terms of what From Software did with their game and what made that game so great, which is part of the From Software DNA, when you get different kinds of DNA of some sort of game thrown into the mix, it changes everything. It gives people within that genre a variety of things to play. By the way, just an FYI, this is the first time I ever played this map here, and I have to say I'm not very fond of this map. It actually reminds me of a Halo 1 map, and I don't and if it is a remake of a Halo 1 map, I don't remember what it's called. But man, these long corridors and shit, like it's like just I don't I know it's my first time playing the map, but seriously, I don't think this map plays very well, to be honest with you. So, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. But anyway, let's get back and talk about what we were talking about here. So Fable is a game. You know what? Here's the thing. I'm obviously subscribed to Game Pass. I still think it's one of the greatest deals in gaming history, if not the greatest deal in gaming history. And I have to say that I've played Hogwarts. I put in some decent amount of time into Hogwarts Legacy. I played a little bit of Mass Effect back in the day, and even though RPGs aren't my type, aren't games that I really played all that much, despite the fact that I've barely touched any of them. I could say that I'm genuinely excited for Fable, not just because of reasons that I mentioned that are similar to what I just mentioned with the Battle Royale in Halo, but also the fact that if it's literally if there's enough action, and if there's enough elements into a game to get me interested in it, especially when that game is has a lot of content in it, I wouldn't mind risking 60 or 70 bucks to or $70 to play that game. But chances are it's going to be on Game Pass anyway, probably. um so, which is great, obviously. But the thing is, even if I had to buy it, if it's that good and if it's that appealing to me and if it looks like it could be fun to play, then I'd be willing to try it. And of course, Fable was that game. I grew up playing games, as I mentioned, for over 31 years, and I remember when the first Fable came out. Even though I wasn't into it, I know a lot of people were. A lot of people were. Fable was making names. It was one of the main Xbox titles that everybody fell in love with. For a first-person shooter, that was Xbox exclusive. People fell in love with Halo. For RPGs, people fell in love with Fable, right? And then later on, and moving on from Fable here, especially since there might also be a Fable collection which I think would be great for the community of Fable in general. Even though all the 3 Fable games that we have so far are pretty much they're in Game Pass anyway, but to do a collection would be pretty cool. But speaking of which, there would be another Xbox exclusive that would come out that would make waves after Halo. That would be a shooter, but a different kind of shooter. And what game are we talking about? We're talking about Gears of War. Now, Gears of War 6 is something that may obviously be teased or maybe even shown. Again, it would be great if we get as much gameplay as possible, so that way Xbox can capitalize off of what Sony's mistakes were from the showcase. But I would say Gears 6, a reveal would be great, as well as, even if it's just 30 seconds of gameplay or just a little snippet of gameplay, that would be great. And a lot of people have been talking about a rumored Gears of War collection that is said to be similar to the Master Chief collection. Now, with my personal experience with Gears of War was actually even before I had a 360. So a coworker of mine at the time had bought a 360, right? And one of the games he ended up getting later on was Gears of War. And they had gotten to General Ram, and myself, I didn't have a 360 at the time. At least if I did, it was at the very beginning, and I didn't have the game, right? So they asked me how to beat General Ram. I'm like, I don't have the game, I don't know, but I looked it up for them on my laptop or whatnot, and I explained to them how to do it. And then fast forward not too much longer later, I don't think it was the same day, I think it was like on another day. And he was co-oping it, by the way. He was co-oping it with another friend of his, by the way, and they couldn't get past General Ram. So I get on by myself and I play, right? And within 10 tries, I beat General Ram. And don't get me, these guys were a lot more casual than I was in terms of gaming. I was always a casual at heart and stuff like that. I just happened to be a gamer, and these guys, even though they played video games, it wasn't like a regular hobby as it was for myself. So and then they were like, no fucking way. I beat him within 10 tries, and they're like, no fucking way. They were like, you son of a bitch. And I was like, I just started laughing. And but that was actually my first taste of Gears. It was actually the last boss fight of the entire game. But I also really loved that game. It was a third person shooter though, but it felt in terms of how the shooting works, because it's almost like that fine line between, it's like that line in between a first person shooter and a third person shooter, right? So it might as well be called a second person shooter at this point, if that even makes sense. Because when you aim down your sights, or when you zoomed into scope, or whatever you want to call it, right? When you're aiming, you're getting next to the character's head. And it's that close, so it's like, it's almost close enough to be a first person shooter, but it's not, because you can still see the character in full. So it's like right in between there, you know what I mean? But ultimately, I think it's classified as a third person shooter. But I loved it, and I loved the different aspects of the gameplay. I never really liked the online that much. I never really liked the multiplayer. It just doesn't, I just don't like that kind of pacing. It's just not my cup of tea in terms of the type of multiplayer that I like. Um, but I also fell in love with Horde. When you're talking about things like Halo 3 ODST, which I fell in love with, when you're talking about Horde for Gears of War, or zombies for Call of Duty and stuff like that. Like, for me, I actually liked Horde quite a bit, but obviously Halo 3 ODST was my favorite type of mode to play like that. I might actually have to do a live stream to where I'm just going to be grinding some Halo 3 ODST. And back then I sucked at Halo completely. Like, it's really funny how grinding multiplayer games can actually, no matter what multiplayer game you play, can actually make you better at different modes, and even in different type of shooters. As weird as that sounds, I'm sure there's got to be somebody out there that can relate to that. But ultimately, the important thing that I kept in mind when I came back and played a little bit of Halo 3 ODST months ago, was that, man, I was approaching every single kind of situation, not just in multiplayer, but in also in single player and all that kind of stuff, wrong. I was just out there in the open and constantly putting myself in danger and just getting in people's faces. And sometimes I'd get kills and sometimes I wouldn't. But the thing is, I never really thought about it from a, I hate to use this word, tactical standpoint, right? In terms of, I never thought of using my head. It's like, okay, it's like, I'm not going to camp. I refuse to camp. But it's like, is there a better way to approach this situation? I never really thought of that. And the funny thing is, Call of Duty multiplayer actually got me to think of that. And I approach games differently now than I otherwise would. Otherwise, I would still be a point 0.7 KD in multiplayer games and stuff like that. I'm sure I'd be having a blast with them, but you guys get the point. But that was my experience with Gears, and I beat the first Gears, and I was actually kind of an achievement hunter back then, so it gave me a reason to play the game on the hardest difficulty, which I did beat. I did play Gears 2, but I didn't play Gears 3 because money was tighter at the time, and as much as I would have loved to have gotten Gears 3, I just didn't get it. But and then I haven't touched the Gears since. But Gears 1, I played the living shit out of. I was going after all the hog tags. I was beating the game from start to finish on the multiplayer, on the single player hardest difficulty and stuff like that. And I really loved. And back then the graphics were amazing. I mean, when the original Gears released, the graphics of that game were absolutely astounding. It was amazing. The graphics, as well as the gameplay, and then the voice acting, the character of Marcus Phoenix and Dom, Cole, and Baird. Those, I mean, again, and they all had their own cool personalities. I loved the Cole train. Baird was just that guy that you love to hate, even though deep down inside he's probably got a heart of gold, even though he's an asshole. but at the same time, you got Marcus Phoenix, who's just kind of in the middle of it all, and then Dom, you got the one that's got like a lot of heart, but it really kind of sucks in terms of what happened to his character. But it's all there, and it's all relatable. And then with Gears 4, Gears 5, I mean, I don't think fans really have complained all that much about the Gears games over time. So the fact that we might get it's rumored to be called the Marcus Phoenix Collection, or the Gears Collection, or whatever it is. I personally think it should be called the Marcus Phoenix Collection. And with all due respect to the Master Chief and what he's done for Halo and the name that he is, I think it's definitely worthy to call it the Marcus Phoenix Collection, because Gears did very similar things for Xbox that Halo did. The only difference was that Gears came out later. It wasn't until I think 2008 when the first Gears came out. And Cliff Bleszinski and crew did an incredible job. And I really have a lot of respect and admiration for his crew, as well as Cliff himself, in terms of what he was able to do. And when the first Gears came out, Cliff was only 26, and he was in charge of like the entire thing, and he made it happen. And I'm very glad that we got to have Gears of War, because Gears of War is a gift for gamers. It's a gift to the Xbox community, and it's just an overall great accomplishment, really. So much admiration and respect for those creators that created Gears, and Coalition have done a great job. So I don't know if they were called Coalition back then. Right now they're called Coalition, but back then I think they were like I don't know what they were called, Epic or whatever. I don't know. I'm getting my names mixed up, but you guys get the deal. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with Gears 6. As a matter of fact, I might do a playthrough of all the Gears games on stream, of just playing Gears 1 through 6. Excuse me, Gears 1 through 5, especially since I have access to all of them. So it's like I might as well. Why not? So, and again, the games were just an amazing accomplishment. They were fun to play as far as single player games are concerned, and a lot of admiration for Horde. So let's talk about another. Here's something interesting. I want to say this real quick before I go on to the next title. Back in the day, during the Xbox days, and I own this game. I don't remember which one I owned because I know that there were many sequels. But do you guys remember a racing game called Project Gotham Racing? Project Gotham Racing was an absolute incredible accomplishment. Like, it was an awesome racing game that got you coming back to play again and again. And with Xbox, the original Xbox, which was actually the most powerful system back in the day, in terms of the regular Xbox, it was more powerful than the PS2, and it was more powerful than the GameCube. Although I will say that the GameCube had a lot of horsepower on that little thing. But anyway, Project Gotham Racing was a legit cool racer. I absolutely loved it. I know right now it's all about Forza Motorsport and things like that, and and more power to them, you know. And we got the next Forza Motorsport coming out that I think a lot of fans are really excited about if you're into racing games, and just the sheer amount of things you can do in racing games nowadays is astounding. They've made them into their own open world experiences, and God knows they're probably going to go even more. You might, in some point in time, you're going to create your own character, and you're going to go in there and you're going to be playing the living shit out of all of these different kinds of games, like whether it's a racing game or whatever it is. Like, I think it's only a matter of time before in every single game out there you're going to be creating your own character. We're kind of doing it now already. Like, when you're looking at the Spartans here, you can customize your own Spartan in this game. When you're looking at Starfield, probably you're probably gonna be able to customize your own person, which you probably will. So it's just absolutely, like, how can you not be excited about? I know that things have kind of been a little lackluster in terms of games not releasing optimized, and I agree wholeheartedly. And I think I've even made some videos on it. However, I want to look at things from the positive. When I'm doing this commentary today, I want to look at things from a positive lens, right? I want to look at it from the positive perspective in terms of the potential that we could possibly reach in the gaming world, really, because I think we're at that point now where we're gonna, like, basically turn a corner, especially with Xbox if they capitalize on it. It just so happens to be that the repercussions for things that you did in the past that fucked you over just kind of take a long ass time in order for them to change. So, by the way, this gameplay here specifically in this at this map right here, I think this map's too big. I think the map is just way too big for a free for all, and I end up changing to team arena, so there's gonna be a lot more action and stuff like that. So just bear with it. But this map right here, just way too big for free for all. I wish, it's like some of the maps need to be omitted from free for all, specifically this map as well as the one that I just played. But anyway, let's get back into it. That's just my opinion anyway. But let's get back into it. And by the way, I meant ranked free for all. Now, going back to another game, Hellblade 2. Hellblade 2 is probably one of the most anticipated Xbox exclusive titles. When I saw a review of Hellblade 1, I very much how do I put this? When I saw a review of Hellblade 1, to me, like, I appreciated what it did. Like, graphically, it was a great looking game, and it barely scratched the surface for me to be interested, because it just looked like a walking simulator, and there wasn't really that much action and stuff like that for me personally. But from what I saw, however, with Hellblade 2 coming out, I think this game is going to scratch every single surface. I'm legitimately looking forward to what this game is going to show from a gameplay perspective, because I think they've already shown, like, like maybe a year or two ago, they've already shown some sort of CGI announcement trailer or whatnot. And now, since it's probably going to come out in 2023, I think we're going to get something that is going to show us some gameplay. And who knows, maybe it might just get me to play the first game regardless of whatever it is, just so I can catch up. Maybe, who knows? But you guys get the point. The point is that this game, like when you're talking about something completely new, like a completely new story, complete like something that's a little bit different than what we've been getting from the norm, it, even if it fails, or even if it doesn't, even if it slightly misses its mark, it could potentially spawn other great things from the idea that it came from, right? But the thing is, I don't think it's going to do that. I think it's going to succeed, and I think it's going to inspire a lot of different games. So, and of course, you have your female protagonist, which is great because, like, when you look at female protagonists throughout time, like when you look at movies, for instance, right? Like one of my favorite female protagonists in movies is Ellen Ripley from the Alien series. And it was really cool to see that transition of character. The same thing goes with Sarah Connor from Terminator. You know, she went uh, from that harmless waitress that was an absolute sweetheart and just a good overall person to someone who's still a good overall person, but she's a completely badass and is absolutely ruthless if you get on her bad side, right? You've seen all of that, right? So it's like absolutely incredible in terms of character development from T1 to T2, right? So that's another thing that I like about these games is when you have a sequel and to where a character has, especially a new IP with a new story, when you've got character development in terms of who that character was in the first game and then who they are in the second game is really great. This is one of the reasons why I love sequels. And I'll even give 343 some props in terms of what they did with Master Chief in Halo 4. They gave him a little bit of dialogue, but at the same time, they didn't give him so much dialogue to where it would ruin part of his character because Master Chief just, he doesn't need to talk a whole bunch, but they beefed it up a little bit. They gave him a little bit more, which is great because it got the fans to know the character that much more, which is very important. You've got to have that, right? You absolutely have to have that. And for me, it's one of the things that made Halo 4's campaign specifically like a highlight for me out of the entire series because I got to understand more, even though it was subtle, I got to understand the protagonist that much more. So if you take another protagonist, whether it's male, female, human, non-human, whatever it is, in a sequel, especially when it's a new IP, and when you really discover more about them, it just makes the game that much better. I know I still have the belief that when it comes to games, obviously, gameplay should be the first and foremost. There's no doubt about it. But the story and that kind of is creeping up to be just as important now because of how far we've come in through gaming, right? It's not just about it's not just about having a good time with the controls anymore. You got to tell a story, right? Depending on that game, right? So I am always like games are pretty much like movies now. They're bigger than movies at this point, or just as big, right? So I mean, the thing is, and it also the cool thing about having a good character as well as a good story in a game is that you can get people that are not into gaming to actually be interested in the subject because it's like, okay, I may not be a gamer, but you know what? I really like this character. Like for me, for instance, let's say you're a guy, right, and you have a girlfriend, and she may not be a gamer, but it doesn't bother her that you game, right? But let's say she decides to watch you gamer one, and she's like, oh wow, look at this story. Like for instance, if you get a woman to watch you play God of War, and then whenever there's a story aspect coming up, especially with a game like that that's got no cuts, there's no way in hell that God of War 2018 and then obviously God of War Ragnarok, there's just no way in fucking hell that a woman or just any person in general, right? That even isn't into gaming would not be interested in the story. They're going to stick around. They're going to want to know what the hell happened, right? And then they might even start asking you questions like, who is this character? Why are they going after him? He's not, what's up? Or you might tell that person ahead of time, like, hey, this character or whatnot, he's been through this, he's done this and this, that, and then now he finds himself in this place, he's got a son and all that. So I find things like that very important in gaming now. When it comes to multiplayer games, obviously story doesn't matter as much, at least in my opinion, hardly at all. It's pure gameplay. But when you're talking about single player stuff, man, you got to have that in there. I mean, for instance, take a look at games that have both, right? Look at James Bond, for instance. Why do we love James Bond? We love James Bond because of his character. We know he's a badass. We know there's no character quite like him. And bless the actors that have played James Bond because it's an absolute task to play that character when you're talking about stunts and action and stuff like that. But at the same time, bringing that character that Ian Fleming or Ian Fleming brought to life uh, on screen like that, and to have high expectations and to have so many sequels and so many fans of the series, it's there's a lot of pressure, and yes, I will say that Pierce Brosnan was my favorite James Bond, and then after just rewatching Daniel Craig's movies, he just won me over. I mean, he actually won me over since his first movie, but not to the point to where I liked him more than Pierce. And I have a lot of respect for Sean Connery, but I didn't grow up with Sean Connery, so I didn't watch as many of his James Bond films. But ultimately, at the end of the day, when I saw what Daniel Craig did from both a physicality standpoint, because from a physicality standpoint, he was wow, compared to the other gentleman that played Bond, with all due respect. And then he also had the swag. He was also the ladies' man, the womanizer, whatnot. He was also very clever, methodical. He had the facial expressions. He had the style. He looked good in a tux. You put it all together, Daniel Craig absolutely nailed James Bond, and I feel very blessed as a person who loves movies as well as games to have been to have seen it all happen in front of my eyes. I was actually on a date when I saw Casino Royale at the movies, with somebody. It was a funny story. I was teaching martial arts at the time. I was 21 years old, and I went out with the older sister of one of the kids that I was teaching. So, she was a year younger than me, and we went to go see Casino Royale, and it was a damn good time. We went and we had food. We went and saw Casino Royale. It was a damn good time, man. And from the moment I saw Daniel Craig in action, and from the moment the whole it all started, I was like, I nodded my head and I was like, you know what? Yes, I agree with the casting of Daniel Craig, even though I hadn't seen too many movies with Daniel Craig in them, hardly at all. As soon as I saw what he did in Casino Royale, I was like, I nodded my head in complete approval. I was 100% sold. So what I'm trying to say is, oh, Jack, what did that tangent have to do anything with games? It has a lot to do with it, because when you have your protagonist, right? When you have the protagonist have that much of an impact, whether you're familiar with the protagonist or not. I mean, there was always once upon a time when we weren't familiar with characters like Kratos or the Master Chief. Again, that's why it's so important for this game here, Hellblade 2, to really develop their character, and it doesn't matter if it's a female, it doesn't matter if it's a male, it doesn't matter if it's an animal, it doesn't matter if it's a god or whatever it is. It's all about character, the personality of that character, as well as what happens within the game that makes you care about the game itself and makes you want to stick around and be like, hey, when the third game comes out or whatever it is, what's going to happen there. We've been influenced and driven by storytelling and wowed by storytelling ever since before we even had movies and games and like that. Ever since we were just limited to theater and play, we've been astounded for things like that. So for me, I'm potentially excited in terms of what could happen with this, and I think there's potential there. And of course, with Gear 6, the same thing with Gear 6 and the characters with Gear 6. Mortal Kombat 1. I mean, think about all this shit. So let's continue. Let's talk about Avowed for a minute. Avowed is going to be like that first-person RPG that a lot of people are really excited about, and they really want to see it. They want to see more of Avowed, and along with Avowed, since we're getting into RPG, Elder Scrolls 6. Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be basically the sequel to Skyrim. And Skyrim, in terms of what Skyrim left behind, we're not just talking about mods and stuff like that that's happening now, but we're talking about what Skyrim left behind. I mean, seriously, they've got big shoes to fill. And one of the reasons why I believe that that Elder Scrolls 6 has been, obviously taking so much time to develop is because, number one, these games are absolutely huge. There's no doubt about it. And games are constantly getting longer and longer, despite the fact that these games are huge in and of themselves. And then, of course, you got the technology behind them, which is a little bit more complicated and more time consuming. However, with Elder Scrolls, again, this is another major Xbox PC type of title that is kind of like it's basically like Fable and stuff like that. It's just as impactful and stuff like that. And it's within that genre, right? So they need to make good on Elder Scrolls 6, and they need to show it off, because the only thing that we've got was a CGI trailer that basically just showed us the title, didn't show us anything else. So we need to see more, and we need to see gameplay. Skyrim, even though I didn't play it, I realized the impact that Skyrim did. Like, Skyrim was everywhere when that game came out. I was so much into Call of Duty and I was playing Call of Duty and stuff. And when Skyrim came out, like, movie review channels were making videos of it, of how great it was. Other content creators were making videos about Skyrim, right? So, like, I remember I've one of the people I'm subscribed to is Jeremy Johns, excellent movie reviewer, just great content creator, and he made a video reviewing Skyrim. You know, because every once in a while he'll review a handful of video games. He's a big Mortal Kombat fan like myself, so he'll review those. And then when Skyrim came out, the way he described it was just brilliant. I mean, and his videos are usually shorter, and the way he described it was absolutely 100% brilliant. I mean, he basically, and I'm paraphrasing here. He said, if there's, you know, if I was on an island all by myself or something like that, and if a genie came up to me and said, "Hey, give me three things that you need," he's like, a computer, a power source, and Skyrim. That's it. So it's, and back then I think you could spend up to like what 500 hours playing Skyrim and you still wouldn't get everything done or some shit, or like if you wanted to complete it you could. So, and then he was talking about how you kill a dragon and how you can use your magic powers and shit. Like there's like, again, despite the fact that I haven't played it, it made me excited for it, and it made me excited for the community. So I might not, you know, soil myself upon watching the footage or anything like that, like fans of the genre would, but I would smile about it, and I would be like, you know what, yeah, I might do a commentary about the results of the Xbox showcase or the Summer's Game Fest or whatever it is. You know, I might make videos about this and that, because I'm genuinely excited about it, and I'm excited about the community, and if it helps spread the word, then why not? I'll do my part. I know I'm a small channel, but I don't give a shit. I have fun doing this, and that's all that matters. And if I'm going to spread the word out of something that somebody might get some joy out of, then so be it. I get joy out of making it, so I might as well spread the joy, right? So anyway, yes, that is another game that really needs to make really good, like, it needs to keep its promise, so to speak, right? Even though it may have not made a promise, it needs to keep its promise, because Skyrim was so good. And you don't need to play Skyrim to know how good it was. All you need to do is watch footage, watch others play it, watch other reviews and stuff like that. It's kind of like Elden Ring. There's no way anybody on the face of the earth can deny that Elden Ring deserves its props. Just like whenever a Grand Theft Auto game comes out, there's no way that you can't give that game its props for what it does, right? So and the same thing goes with Elder Scrolls. Elder Scrolls has become so big now, especially after that big, you know, game that was Skyrim. You know, I know there was Oblivion before that, and I remember my best friend was playing it, but then Skyrim was like a whole other. People just love the shit out of it. So, so with this new one coming up, I don't know what it's going to be called. It's just called Elder Scrolls 6 for now. It's exciting for me personally. It's exciting because, again, if it gets me into the genre where other RPGs have failed, then to me it's worth it, right? If it gets me into it, to me it's worth it, because I've gotten to the point to where I appreciate the different types of games. So let's continue the discussion with something else as well. Oh, I don't know about you guys, but I'm also into the like, I like I mentioned Ellen Ripley earlier, so Aliens. There's going to be a new Alien game, but it's going to be like a real-time strategy game. So I know a lot of people are going to be really excited about that. So I'm really excited for those people, and I want those guys to absolutely enjoy that game. So Fireteam Elite, I did play some of. And, you know, the thing is, I really need to, like, finish some of these games, man. You know what? Every time I stream, I shouldn't just stream a game like this, because I don't... Here's the thing. I need my multiplayer fix. And the thing is, I'm looking at my footage right now while I'm recording this, and I'm like, I still can't believe that I'm aiming decently well, because I haven't touched Halo Infinite in like damn near a year before last night, or should I say early this morning. So I keep saying to myself, I'm like, sheesh, because, and the thing is, my aim used to be all over the place. Oh, by the way, quick little thing. Sometimes if you're struggling with aim, or if you can't control your aim, it's not necessarily I mean, granted, with practice, you're going to get better, but sometimes it's the sticks themselves. And right now, they've got everything from control freaks into these rings that you could put around your sticks in order to make the resistance higher. So that way, it's like, so that way you can move it when you really want to, as opposed to moving it when you don't want to. And that's why I use the PS4, the PS5 controller when I'm playing this. I'm using a Brook Super Converter to do it because I'm playing on the Xbox Series X, but I'm using the PS5 controller, and I realized ever since playing on the PS4 with Call of Duty, my aim was better than ever than it was on Xbox, despite the fact that I was playing on Xbox. And the reason was because of the sticks. I tried to figure out why it was, but it was because of the sticks. It took a while to get used to because it was so different, but once I did, I quickly realized that I was aiming better. So just a little tip, sometimes it's the sticks. So whether it means getting those rings, or whether it means getting control freaks, or whether it means, just using a different controller, for a different system or whatever it is, just buy yourself a Brook Super Converter, and you're able to use that controller on a different console. So if you're into that sort of thing, if you're serious enough about it. So, but that's just me. That's not necessarily for everybody, but that's just something I realized about me and about what works best for me. So I just wanted to throw that in there just in case some of you guys are interested in that sort of thing. But getting back into things here, I want to say that I'm also, obviously, you guys know if you've been here long enough, Mortal Kombat 1 is, there's going to be like a gameplay trailer next week. And Ed Boon, I just saw before recording this, I saw that Ed Boon had tweeted about it. And that is exciting. The biggest thing, though, for me now, back in the day, it was all about the fighting, right? And I grew up in the fighting game genre in the arcades in the early 90s. And more. I was there when Mortal Kombat 1 turned heads and when Mortal Kombat 2 landed and grabbed everybody. I was there. I was a kid. I was 8 and 9 years old. So now I have to say that the thing that has me most excited now, well, the thing I was always excited about with Mortal Kombat is the lore, right? But now the one thing that has me the most excited more than anything else, you guys want to know what it is? You ready for this? The thing that has me more excited than anything else is the fact that we may get a full-on conquest mode, bro. A full-on conquest mode. By the way, for those of you guys that are excited about Mortal Kombat, let me tell you something, man. Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks is a gem of a game. And I was actually the only one of my friends that bought it. I guess they were playing Halo and all that kind of stuff, and I was always a Mortal Kombat fan. And for me, there was no way I wasn't going to get it, right? And I saw reviews of it, and I thought it looked cool. And then lo and behold, I get it, and guess what? I played the living shit out of it, and then I brought it to my friend's house, and we couch co-op that shit. I mean, I think you could only play, it was only limited up to 2 players, but we couch co-op that shit, man. It was so much fun. Liu Kang, Kung Lao throwing people against walls that were like the pit, like kind of like death traps in the Mortal Kombat 2 era, which is my personal favorite of Mortal Kombat era, by the way. The Mortal Kombat 2 era is my personal favorite era. And the fact that we might get something like that, but like in a different flavor, for our conquest mode in a story that I am very well familiar with characters that I'm very well familiar with, has me wanting to soil myself. So for me, it's, with all due respect to the fighting, of course, it's no longer about the fighting anymore for me, in terms of gameplay and stuff like that. Who knows? Maybe I just got my fix enough when I was a kid, and maybe they've gotten a little too complicated for me now. Who knows? And it just doesn't tickle my fancy anymore. For me right now, it's just all about first-person shooters, and then single-player games as well. It's and trying out new things. Maybe it's, I don't know if it's my age, or I don't know if it's because of the taste. Maybe it's a lot like food. Remember when you were a kid, there were some foods that you really just didn't like that much, and then when you kind of grow up, you like some of those foods that you didn't expect. So I was always told that maybe it's because my tastes have matured. I don't know if it's the same thing with games, but that's just something that I that just, it kind of strikes me when it comes to this, which could be true. But at the same time, I'm really glad that I've become a lot more open-minded as I've grown older. And the same thing is the same thing is with games. Even if I don't like a certain kind of game, I'm always interested to find out why people enjoy that game and what it is about that specific game, which for me personally is exciting. It's fascinating to me. It's exciting to me, and I want to see some of the content creators that I watch play these games or talk about these games or stream these games. And we're not just talking about big names either. We're also talking about the smaller guys. Like, Like if I saw GCP streaming like Mortal Kombat Conquest, I would go in there and watch and talk to him. I might be playing the game and recording footage, for instance, for a future commentary if I'm not streaming it. But if he's streaming it, I'm gonna go in there and watch him. I might even get on the Discord with him and talk to him. And you know, and it's like, hey man, if there's anything you may not know about Mortal Kombat, I'm your boy. You know, I'm your booklet of Mortal Kombat sources. Like if the game is gonna ask you to answer a question, or if you're not sure which way you should go, you know, try the like ask me a question, you know, or something like that. Big Mortal Kombat fan. I'm a Mortal Kombat geek, okay, with a capital G. So, especially when it comes to the original trilogy, which is one of the reasons why Mortal Kombat 9 is one of my favorite games of all time, and it is on my personal top 10 best fighting games of all time list. But anyway, let's continue, because, and the thing is, right now, while I'm on here, I'm actually going to, because all of this has been just with my head alone, and I'm not really because I'm sure there's a few titles that I'm forgetting to speculate about, as well as talk about them. So I'm gonna type in right now, you know, Xbox Games Showcase 2023, in case there's any type of game that I forgot. Oh yeah, there's pure Xbox, our predictions, blah blah blah. Let's take a look at this. The first thing I see here is a picture of Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones. I know that games based off of a movie license have kind of gotten a bad rap over time, which is again understandable. However, with that being said, some games can be done right. And back in my day, you know what game actually did it right that people literally were not expecting to be good, but was? You want to know what game it was? It was a little game for the Xbox called The Chronicles of Riddick Escape from Butcher Bay. And that game was legit good. And I remember my best friend was playing it. I remember reviewers were actually praising it. And it was like one of the first games that was licensed off of a movie that actually like was a legit really good game. And of course Vin Diesel did the voice, because we know he's a gamer. He's also a fan of Dungeons and Dragons, by the way, just an FYI. But we know he's a gamer, we know he loves games, and I love that about him. Like, can you imagine if you had the chance to play video games with Vin Diesel, man? Can you imagine that shit? Like any game you wanted, you know? And I remember even one of his I don't know if this was improvised by him or if it was in the script or if he added it, but in Triple X in 2003, the original Triple X, he mentions in one scene, he's like, nah, I had my leg in a cast for 3 months. All I did was play first-person shooter video games. And I was like, oh, man, that's hilarious. And that was around the time, well, I think it was later on when Butcher Bay came out. But, oh, man, I wouldn't be surprised if that quote from the movie was kind of an inspiration for Butcher Bay. I wouldn't be surprised, even though it was based off of Riddick. So the first thing that they're talking about here is Machine Games will show off a cinematic trailer for Indiana Jones. That's cool and all, but cinematic trailers alone, I think, should be left only for games that are way far off. You know what I mean? So let's keep going. Redfall makes an appearance with news on 60 frames per second. That's what they're expecting as well. But with all due respect to the frame rates for Redfall, I appreciate that. But that game has a lot more problems than just the frame rate issue. I would rather have the game play at 30 frames and play the way it was meant to be, with all the content it was meant to have, and be the game that it was meant to be, as opposed to having a piece of crap that's 60 frames. You know what they say, you put lipstick on a pig, it'll still be a pig. You know, you can put 60 frames on a piece of crap, it'll still be a piece of crap. So unless they mention something else, then it was a big disappointment for me. Okay, number 3, Avowed gameplay reveal ahead of 2024 launch. So Avowed is actually set to come out in 2024, and good, a gameplay reveal, we need it. We need a gameplay reveal. The more gameplay we get, the better. It's simple as that. So let us continue. Minecraft's ray tracing update reemerges. Okay, cool. Minecraft is a big game, but I just never really got too much into Minecraft, but I respect the hell out of it. Who knows? Maybe one day I'll create an entire world in Minecraft. Isn't that what you're supposed to do in Minecraft anyway? To where you just like create an entire world and build shit. Isn't that what you're supposed to do? Number 5, Hellblade 2 makes a statement with 2023 launch date. So let's see what else they're saying in this part. We've long believed that Ninja Theory's Hellblade sequel is one of the furthest along with the Xbox portfolio, and we think this year's showcase will prove that. Buckle up, folks. We reckon Hellblade 2 is coming to Xbox Series X and S this year. Yeah, I think so too. Now that we will add a small caveat that in the late 2023 window would easily be pushed into early 2024, but at the time of the game Xbox showcase, we think that Microsoft and developer have their sights set on later this year. Hellblade 2, Forza Motorsport, and Starfield in 2023. Sign us up. Okay, next up, Starfield Direct steals the show. I hope they do. I legitimately hope they do because Starfield has so much expectations right now and even more pressure after that Redfall letdown. I certainly hope so. Speaking of Starfield, one of the known qualities heading into the showcase of Bethesda's upcoming RPG, months ago, Xbox confirmed that a Starfield Direct would air right after the main event, and we think that portion of the live stream could steal the whole showcase. We know Bethesda Game Studios is bringing loads of new Starfield gameplay. We've seen lots of leaks and rumors that at that point towards new Starfield themed Xbox hardware being present. And of course, we know Todd Howard can capture the hearts and minds like no other. There's lots to be excited about with the potential of Xbox surprises that can land on June 11th, but make no mistakes, Starfield has the potential to steal the show anyway. Okay, so next on number 7, Halo Infinite Season 4 gameplay and a tease for what's next. Just exactly what we talked about. Let's see if they mentioned Tatanka. Let's see. We know that Halo Infinite Season 4 is coming on June 20th, but we've not seen much of this upcoming season yet outside of its initial announcement. The new content drop, landing just over a week after the show, leads itself pretty well to a big reveal during Xbox showcase. But you know what? We don't think that's it for Halo. For months, Project Tatanka has been rumored to be a Halo Battle Royale of some sort, and we think this, or whatever its potentiality evolved into at this point, will also be shown here. Yes, it better be. It could only be a teaser, but we think some form of sneak peek in the future of Halo is more than due for the team at 343 Industries. Absolutely. Number 8, Gears of War will show up in some fashion. Yes, please. The Coalition has been pretty quiet since Gears 5, launched in 2019, aside from its work on other teams like Epic Games on the Matrix Awakens demo, so it's time for Gears 6 action this June. Well, we're not quite ready to commit to that, but we think the team will be present in some fashion, whether it's something co-developed, or an early teaser trailer for Gears 6, or that rumored Marcus Phoenix collection. We're going to say that the Coalition will be there. The question is, what will they show off? Number 9, Fable is coming, and it's bringing a huge gameplay demo. Oh, it better. Oh my gosh, it better. Huge gameplay demo? Yes. I mean, can you imagine if you could actually play that gameplay demo? Like, seriously, like if you can actually play it? Like, that would be something, wouldn't it? So let's get into it. So Fable was definitely teased by Xbox recently, right? Definitely, absolutely. Okay, gotcha. It must be at the Xbox Game Showcase in 2023 then. The sad truth is that we've been burned by teasers before. So while we're not wholly convinced of it by right now, it does appear to hint that something is to come. If Fable is ready to be shown this year, we reckon it could be proper gameplay demo given already that we got a super short teaser trailer way back in 2020. We have faith that Forza Horizon developer Playground Games can get this one going in speedy fashion, and we can say that it is bring on the new Fable. So, number 10, Microsoft closes out the show with a brand new game reveal. Now, this is interesting. So, we're going to end this predictions article the same way we expect Xbox to end its showcase, with a big new game reveal. Yep, we think Microsoft will lift the lid on something secret close, but its 2023 event aside with Starfield Direct chunk added at the end of the course. As for what is the secret project will be, there are many Xbox studios it's almost hard to guess, and that's not counting potential third-party reveals. ID Software showing its next game could be a shout, as Cloud Compulsion Games revealing its next project after We Happy Few. There are so many questions out there, but we think Microsoft will be wanting to make a big statement to close out the main portion of the Xbox Game Showcase in 2023. Okay, first thing I want to say is that somebody had said that, without giving specific info, that there's 2 games that are going to make people's mouths drops when they reveal them. Okay. Now, one thing I do have to say is that in terms of my personal wish, in terms of what I want Killer Instinct, a Killer Instinct sequel, or a new Killer Instinct season. It's been way too long, and that game is just way too deserving, and the fan base of that game is big enough. And people are still playing that game to this day. Okay? So Gear 6 is definitely... Killer Instinct is definitely a thing, in my opinion. I think it should come out. I think it should be announced. I'd be shocked if they didn't. If they don't announce anything by now, chances are there's nothing going on. Anyway, Um, Also, another little thing that I would like is we had a little game that was um, a game of the year contender, Psychonauts 2. And I think a Psychonauts 3 would be awesome. Psychonauts 3 is, oh, that would be amazing. Psychonauts 2 and the original Psychonauts that I played way back in the day when I was a kid, um, one of the best platformers I ever played. Like legitimately. And Psychonauts 2 was a game that absolutely got made with heart. You know, there's not, sadly speaking, there's not as many games that are made with the same amount of heart as there were back in the day. And Psychonauts 2 was kind of like a gift because it was made with that kind of heart at the time that it came out. And it shows in the game. The game was great to look at. The game was smooth to run. It was fun to play. There was plenty to do in it. Watch the completionist video on Psychonauts 2. Watch that shit. And tell me that you don't want to play that. Come on. Especially if you're a fan of platformers and shit like that. Dude, it is cute, but it is not just limited to, it's not by any means limited to just kids. It's like everybody will love this game. There's no way. If you're a fan of platformers, if you want to look for another game to like, get lost in or whatnot, try out Psychonauts 2, man. It's on Game Pass, of course, and it's just an absolute gem. And I think it's also a third-party game, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure. Even though Microsoft, but I think you can play it on all consoles, if I'm not mistaken. I think. But anyway, Psychonauts 2, another game that needs to come out. Or excuse me, Psychonauts 3. And of course, what could those two games be? I mean, there's been a lot of games. There's been a handful of games that Xbox um had back in the day that just didn't anymore. Um I don't know. I've been thinking about what those two games could be, but I don't know what they could be really because I'm trying to think of like some old Xbox games or whatnot, and franchises that were really good back in the day, or even average, but still had like a cult following, and then just didn't, just kind of disappeared out of nowhere. Like I remember Freedom Fighters was really cool. Brute Force was an excellent co-op game back in the day for Xbox. So I'm thinking about those two games. It's like you know, um, I don't know. I don't think there are those two games, but at the same time, I don't know. You just never know. Um, one of the best things that people like about games, they get to play with friends and such. So it's like, I don't know, Brute Force in the year 2023 or in the year 2024 would be pretty badass if you ask me, because Brute Force was a cool co-op game where you can switch between, three other characters. And it was a third-person shooter. And obviously with today's technology and with different gameplay elements and stuff like that, they can do a lot with that if they wanted to. I don't know. We'll see. Of course, obviously, we've already mentioned Indiana Jones, so we'll see what they do. Um, we shall see. It could very well be good. Like, Marvel took advantage of the Spider-Man franchise and made it into something great with their game, and they're obviously they're going to be releasing a sequel of it, and you've got Miles Morales and everything. So it's like they could do that with Indiana Jones. They can give it the Spider-Man. They can give it the Spider-Man type of touch, so to speak, right? They could. If you got the right team behind it and everything else, they very much could do that. But we'll see whether or not that happens. So now, as far as what I want to know from you guys is like, what would you like to see, like in terms of not just the Xbox Game Showcase, but we're talking about the Summer's Game Fest and stuff like that. What do you think are the contenders for Game of the Year so far? I mean, granted, it's still very early, but are there any games in particular that you want to see as far as that goes? I'm legitimately curious because those types of games, like these types of games that kind of seemingly are out of nowhere, or games that have a decent first game and then an amazing sequel or whatnot, like again, Hellblade 2, or Avowed, or at least in terms of potentiality of what these games could reach, man, could be amazing. So I want to know what it is specifically that you want to see, because for me personally, I'm excited about everything. And this commentary wasn't just about again, it's not just about being super duper positive and shit like that, but it's like, bro, we could be in for something here. We could be in for something cool. Oh, speaking of which, there's one other thing. There's one other thing. There was kind of like a God of War alternative that came out, and it's on Game Pass. The original, you know, it's on Game Pass. It's called Dante's Inferno. I would like for there to be a sequel. I would like for there to be a sequel of Dante's Inferno. I think that there's a lot of potential there, but we'll see. Or at the very most, maybe a reboot or something like that. Or imagine if they gave Dante's Inferno the God of War treatment. That'd be pretty cool. That would be something, because that game was cool. And then, of course, from the Sony side of things, of course, you got your games like your Parasite Eve, your Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver. Even if they're remakes, bro, I think Dead Space and Resident Evil 4 did a great job showcasing that remakes, not only do they sell and spread the word of mouth, but they could be good. They can be good, and they are good. So games like Dead Space, remastered or remake or whatever it is, and all that, yes, by all means, make those games. Do that shit. They're good for the community. They're good for, like, nostalgia is always going to be around, because gamers that are super young now are gonna love nostalgia later on in the future when you decide to remaster a game that released more recently. So there's a reason why Skyrim got remastered. Okay, let's put it that way. Just to name one game out of so many. So, oh, and speaking of Mortal Kombat, fans would love a Shaolin Monks remaster. I've already said that, and Ed Boon himself said that he wishes that'd be great. But yeah, looking at it overall, there's like so much potential, and I'm excited about it, and I hope you guys are too. And what would you like to see in the upcoming showcase? What would you like to see at the Summers Game Fest? Hell, Nintendo. What would you like to see for Nintendo? You know, I mean, we're talking about, like, we haven't seen Donkey Kong yet for the Switch, have we? Have we, or maybe, I don't know. I mean, a new Donkey Kong game, a Metroid Prime 4. I mean, come on. And Tears of the Kingdom is just like, you know, making waves, obviously. But anyway, that's pretty much what I got for this one. I've been going at it long enough, and those are my overall thoughts on everything. So let me know down in the comment section what you guys think. And I hope you enjoyed it. I hope this helped get you hyped up, man. And it's not false hype either. It's like the potential is there, and I want to see us reach that potential. I want to see the gaming world reach that potential. And who knows, maybe Xbox might be the one to kick it off, optimistically speaking. I know a lot of people lost faith, and rightfully so in some ways, but you know, when one door closes, a whole bunch more open, and this is actually the opportunity for them to score, and a good one at that. So, but yeah, and they better keep their word. So if they say a certain game releases at a certain date, it better fucking release, and it better release working and all that kind of shit. That needs to happen. So anyway, that's what I got for this one. I hope you enjoyed the gameplay for what it was. I hope you enjoyed the commentary. I hope you're as hyped as I am. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. See ya.